How much profit can I actually make selling print on demand on Etsy? That's a question I've either seen or received many times the last couple of years since I started my print on demand business and started sharing my learnings on YouTube. In this video, we're going to do a really simple breakdown of pricing, cost, and profit for selling print on demand on Etsy. All right, so like I said, we are going to do a breakdown of pricing, cost, and profit for selling print on demand on Etsy. And we're going to keep things fairly simple, but I am going to break down everything for you. So we're going to do two examples side by side of a t-shirt and a mug. And I'm using Printify for my cost figures. So your fulfillment costs will vary depending on whether you use Printify, and even within Printify, whether you have a free account or a Printify premium account, or whether you use another platform like Printful or Gelato. So of course, you always have to substitute your own numbers for what I'm going to explain. So the first thing is going to be to set our product pricing. And you want to start by looking at the cost of the product that you think you want to offer, and then by looking at the competition in the niches that you want to sell in. We're going to do kind of a quick version of this, but there is a lot to consider when you set your pricing strategy, and it also involves your shipping strategy. And I have separate videos that go into greater detail about those topics. I'll link to them in the description so you can check them out. But basically, what you want to do first is determine what you want your total target price to be for any given product, and then make a decision about whether you want to do free shipping and build the whole shipping cost into the product, or do a product plus shipping approach. And my first tip for you, especially if you are new to print on demand or starting your print on demand business, is to take advantage of tools and resources that are available that will save you a lot of time. For example, there are many Etsy fee calculators out there. So if you're selling on Etsy and you want to know how much something is going to return in profit for you, there are calculators out there like the Allura Etsy fee calculator, which we are going to use ourselves in just a moment. They're free to use, link to it in the description, and just makes it very fast and easy to calculate what your profit will be based on your price and your cost. But like I said, for this video, we're going to do two examples. We'll do a t-shirt and a mug. We're going to start with a t-shirt, and I'm going to use a slightly more expensive t-shirt as far as print on demand goes. This is the Bella Canvas 3001 in the Printify catalog. Gildan has a couple options that are also popular that have lower cost, but we'll use this one because it has a little bit of a higher cost, just so you can see how low the profit margin might be. Now, there are a lot of print providers on Printify in general, and for this particular product, there are several print providers. I'm in the US. I generally use Monster Digital as my preferred print provider for t-shirts. And their cost for the Bella Canvas 3001 is $9 even for sizes small up to XL, and then they have different prices for 2XL and 3XL. But the first thing you want to do is get your price set for your small to XL, because the lowest price in your listing is going to be the price that shows in search results on Etsy, so that's going to be your most important starting point. So we've got $9 cost for the t-shirt itself. That does include printing of the t-shirt. However, the shipping cost is separate. That's $4.35. So the total cost to have this t-shirt fulfilled by Monster Digital on Printify with Printify Premium, by the way, this is the Printify Premium pricing. The total cost is $13.35. So that's what we need to keep in the back of our mind as we start looking at the next step, which is to look at the competition and determine what our target price should be. And like I said, we're doing the fast version of this. So let's say that we looked at the competition on Etsy in the niches that we are interested in selling in, because it can vary, pricing can vary. For example, if you want to sell exclusively personalized designs, you can definitely charge more for those types of products than you can non-personalized. But let's say that we did some research on Etsy for our niches, at least the first few niches that we plan on creating designs for. And what we're finding is that prices are generally in the low 20s for a total price. So you want to maximize your profit margin, of course, but you don't want to seem overpriced. So I'm going to target $20.99 based on my cost and what I saw from my competition. I think that's a sweet spot that'll get me a decent profit margin, but be competitive enough that I won't price myself out of the market, and I'm also not going to be the lowest price person. Now, there are a couple different ways you can get that total price. As I mentioned, this is where your shipping strategy comes into play. I can charge $20.99 with free shipping, or I could charge a different price and then charge for shipping. For example, I could charge $17.99 and then charge $3 for shipping. And you can make that any combination you want. Basically, the idea, if you charge for shipping, is that the price a customer sees in search results is going to look lower. However, you don't really want to set it up so that your shipping price would be really high, because that can make them abandon their cart once they add your product to their cart and realize how high the shipping cost is. But either way, $20.99 is the price that I am going to target. Now here's where the Etsy fee calculator comes in. So if I set my selling price at $20.99 and I set my cost at $13.35 and hit calculate, the calculator is going to tell me that I will have a profit of $5.20, total Etsy fees of $2.44, and a profit margin of 25%. So where is that $2.44 expense coming from? That is your Etsy fees, as it states. There's a breakdown of those fees here under the revenue breakdown in the calculator. There are also plenty of resources directly on Etsy that explain what the fees are. So there is a listing fee that you pay when you create a listing, as well as when you sell something and it relists, and that's 20 cents. And then on each sale, there's also a 6.5% transaction fee. And then there's a payment processing fee in the US that's 3% plus 25 cents. That payment processing fee is different from country to country, so it might be different if you're located outside the US. They also have offsite ad fees. However, you have to be opted into offsite ads. And if you actually sell a product through an offsite ad, then they assess an additional fee. But we're assuming the sale came from on the Etsy platform, so we're not including that offsite ad fee in our examples. So that's where that $2.44 fee comes from in this specific example. Now, 25% is not the best profit margin. Ideally, we look for profit margins closer to that 30%, maybe even a little above 30% profit margin range as far as a print-on-demand business goes. This is not a business where you have sky-high profit margins. However, at the same time, there are some products that have become more like commodities, meaning people don't expect to pay high prices for them. And if you're selling simple designs on basic t-shirts, that is one of those products. Unless it's a really unique niche, or like I mentioned earlier, if it's a niche where maybe all the designs are personalized, those tend to warrant higher prices. So why would I be willing to accept only 25%? Well, of course, I could tweak this. I could make my target price $22.99 instead of $20.99. That would get me closer to 30%. And I would strongly consider that if I was only going to sell t-shirts in my business. However, I'm also going to sell some products in my print-on-demand store that have a higher profit margin that will help to balance this out. So now let's talk about mugs. I love selling mugs for several reasons. They're a super popular gift item. They're not that expensive. You don't run into some of the customer service issues that you run into with apparel, like somebody saying it doesn't fit or the size isn't what they expected. And most importantly, they support higher profit margins, which helps to balance out the lower profit margins you might have for some other products that you sell. Now, I actually have several videos about creating designs for mugs and selling mugs in general. I'll link to those in the description and in the corner if you want to check any of those out. But let's do our mug pricing and profit comparison here. So right now, my preferred provider on Printify is District Photo for plain white 11-ounce mugs. I also sell the 15-ounce size. Their pricing is slightly different. We'll just do the 11-ounce size for the example. So right now in the US, their price is $3.56 on Printify Premium for the actual mug to have it printed, and then the shipping for that size is $4.99. And that gives us a total cost of $8.55. Now again, we're going to assume that I've done my research in the niches I want to sell in to take a look at some competition, and I arrived at a target price of around $17 total to get the profit that I really want. That's going to look nice and competitive in search results, and really not many customers are going to bat an eye at $3.99 for shipping, and that gets me to my total target price of $16.98. So I come back to my Allura Etsy fee calculator. I enter $16.98 for my total selling price and $8.55 for the cost, and I calculate that. So I've got a total Etsy fee this time of $2.06, total profit of $6.37, and profit margin of 37%. So a much healthier profit margin for the mug compared to the t-shirt. And I still was able to list it for a relatively competitive price and a reasonable shipping cost. And just like t-shirts, you can absolutely sell volume of mugs. All right, so let's just illustrate what I mean by the mug profit margin helping out your t-shirt profit margin in this example. So we've got our t-shirt profit margin of about 25%, getting us $5.20, and I didn't tweak the price. I probably would maybe add $1 to that just to get a little bit more cushion in there for if I want to run a 10 or 15% off sale, but we're going to leave it alone just to illustrate how these work together. So if we assume that we can sell approximately equal volume of both of these products in our print-on-demand shop shop, let's combine these numbers and see what it looks like. So let's just add one of each together and see what we would get. We would have $37.97 in total sales, $4.50 in total Etsy fees, $21.90 would be our total fulfillment cost, and so that would leave us with a total profit of $11.57. So if we assume that we can sell approximately equal volume of t-shirts and mugs throughout the year, then we can end up with our average profit margin of 30%. Of course, that's before overhead expenses are removed, so if you pay for things like a Printify premium subscription, a keyword research tool, or a paid graphic source, you also have to subtract those from your profit. So this is just a very simple example, but the point is the mix of products and the volume that you sell of those products is really what ultimately determines what your final profit margin is. Of course, you want to set the profit margin for each individual product at the right level. But for some products, it is okay to accept a slightly lower profit margin if that's what the market really requires for you to be successful. The key is just to look at the competition and see what types of prices the products that are actually selling are. And some keyword research tools actually help you do that as well. Tools like Allura, which does have a paid subscription, the site we were using for that Etsy fee calculator, they have resources in their paid subscription that help you find best-selling or trending Etsy listings. So if you look at pricing within niches based on the listings that are selling, that can give you a good idea of what customers are willing to pay. But the bottom line is you absolutely can make these profits by selling print on demand on Etsy. You can also make similar or more profits by selling on other platforms like your own website using Shopify or by selling on Amazon through Seller Central. Etsy is certainly not the only one. It's just the one I'm most experienced with. If you are just getting started in print on demand, head over to my website, podinsights.net. You will find a page full of resources about print on demand platforms, keyword research tools, sources for graphics, both free and paid, as well as blog posts for every episode of my podcast where I share lots of helpful information. So be sure to check out the podcast if you haven't. I hope this information was helpful. Let me know in the comments if it was, and if you still have any questions about calculating your Etsy print on demand profits. Check out the links that I put in the description to some other helpful videos that get into more about pricing and shipping and all of those things for the Etsy platform. Do me a favor and hit that like button if you did find the video helpful, and subscribe to the POD Insights channel if you haven't already. If you have, thank you so much for the support. I really appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.